Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Tenshin Nasukawa versus Juan Francisco Estrada fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get, oh, and also feel free to join the Patreon as well. Sorry, this is a Patreon requested video. I was going to do it, but it's going to be coming out a month before the fight due to somebody requesting it. And again, I appreciate the support in which I've had with the Patreon so far, and you can request your own combat sporting related content if you press the link in the description. Again, thank you very much. Now let's get straight into this one, and this is a really interesting fight in my opinion, on an interesting card with this headlining, I believe, and then having fighters like Guevara on there. Of course, Estrada's had a few fights with Guevara in his time, and Takumi as well, a former world champion there, and Takumi trying to rebuild when he's coming off, losing his title. Again, it's an interesting card. It's not one of the bigger, massive Japanese cards where we're seeing multiple world titles being on the line, but this is a really interesting fight in my opinion, and this is set as a WBC title eliminator, not a final eliminator though. Again, I'm not too sure if that means that this is going to then lead on to the winner fighting the winner of Inoue versus Ioka. I'm not really too sure, because I'm pretty sure Andrew Kane, not too long ago on the Nick Ball undercard, went and won a final eliminator or an eliminator for that same WBC belt. So I'm really not too sure what's going to happen with the winner of this one, if they will get the title shot or not. But I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with the belt as the time of recording this. Inoue versus Ioka is set to happen, and from memory, I'm not entirely sure when that fight is. I think it's, going to be soonish. So again, this is going to be coming out just before then, and again, we can see what happens with the belt. I mean, you can argue kind of for and against reasons for both of these guys to have a title shot and to have a world title eliminator. Again, I feel like both of these guys do deserve the eliminator, but to then go on to get a title shot if they win, it's a good win, but then to go straight away to get a title shot, I don't know. I mean, Tenshin was on a good run, quickly going through the levels and improving as a skilled former kickboxing southpaw. And, he's made a massive name for himself. He's a real star out in Japan. But then when he faced Takuma Inoue for the belt, he lost what was a competitive fight where, Tenshin looked good for a couple of the early rounds, but then Takuma Inoue took over and dominated. But again, it was a pretty one-sided fight in the end. It was, like I say, just competitive early. And so, really, unless Tenshin goes out there and KOs Estrada, I don't really feel like anyone would really want to see the rematch too quickly. I suppose he's a big star in Japan, so again, they could probably build for a rematch, but I feel like it would just go the same way. So, I just don't feel like that's a fight that makes sense. So to have this as an eliminator, if they both, Inoue and Tenshin win, it's just not really going to make for an entertaining rematch, in my opinion, and a valid rematch. And I mean, Estrada, he's a star name as well throughout boxing, having had plenty of top fights against great names, but at the same time, again, he's not too long ago coming off the worst loss of his career so far, where he got quite brutally stopped against Bam Rodriguez. I mean, he gave Rodriguez his toughest fight to date, most probably, even though he did get knocked out. I mean, or at least maybe not toughest fight to date, but toughest fights within the past few years, since Bam Rodriguez has been a real star, and that's only because he was able to quite drastically suddenly drop Bam Rodriguez. But of course, Bam Rodriguez was able to come back and win, and was able to stop Estrada in impressive fashion. So again, he's had great names on his resume. You remember the trilogy with Gonzalez so well. It's always been something that's talked about so much because of how good each individual fight was. But I suppose, if he goes out there and stops Tenshin Nasukawa, or if he goes on and puts a really dominant split display, then, I suppose you can argue for a title shot there, just because, like I say, he has fought so many top guys. He's fought for multiple former world champions, and also guys who have faced him and then gone on to become world champions afterwards. And he is a two-weight world champion now, pushing possibly for the last time in his career to get a world title shot in a third division, winning his first fight at bantamweight last time out, which was, a step down in opponent, but it wasn't, a drastic journeyman type of fight. It was somebody who still had a decent winning record. So again, it wasn't an awful fight to get himself back in the winning column. And again, I suppose if he can build a 2-fight winning streak against, what wasn't an awful opponent last time, and then also Tenshin Nasukawa, yeah, you could say that he deserves a world title shot. But of course, they'll have in the back of all the fans' minds the fact that he did get KO'd badly by Jesse Rodriguez. But that was, again, after 2 years off as well. And, he is only really getting older. He's had plenty of wars. And I mean, I suppose despite all the wars and all he has achieved, he is still only 35 years of age. So again, if he'd not had the 2 years off, he could still be in a real kind of peak point in his career at the moment. And there's no discredit losing to Rodriguez because of how good of a fighter he is. But again, it's like I say, just going to be in the back of everybody's minds if he does get a title shot. But of course, Inoue has lost before Takuma Inoue, so again, that's in the back of people's minds as him as a champion as well. And Nasukawa, I mean, he's 27. So again, there is a drastic kind of age difference between the two of them. And of course, Nasukawa was able to achieve quite a lot and build his profile well in kickboxing. And then he had his boxing fight with Mayweather as well. So he's done a lot to make himself a star. So realistically, this is kind of just two lower weight division big name stars going up against each other. Of course, it's in Japan as well. So credit to Estrada to taking a fight like this. It just kind of came out of nowhere, in my opinion. I was seeing that they were ranked in similar kind of positions, and I was hoping that could be a matchup that could be made, but I was just, not expecting it to happen. I just didn't think we'd be seeing Estrada for, a while in another big fight. And, now we see him back, and again, I'm not against it. I'm quite excited for it, in my opinion. To speak about both fighters skill-wise individually, though, Nasukawa as a fighter, he's able to get his jab through well and kind of find that jab early and have success with that early and finding his range early. He follows off his jab pretty nicely as well. When he's at his best, he is, in my opinion, kind of picking off his jab and working off it and using the fast hands and the mid-range work, which is good. He's got solid footwork, especially when he has energy as well. It's good, all right footwork, and it's quite good offensive footwork as well. Coming forward a little bit, creating a little bits of angles and stuff like that is, again, not quite as good as what we've seen from the high levels of Estrada's footwork. But again, it's good. It's nice to see that he is willing to move. And I mean, in the later part of the Inoue fight, we didn't really see much movement then because he was, more tired. He'd been in a war and he was just trying to go toe to toe a bit more. But again, when he has that energy early, and what we have seen in other ones of his fights, he is willing to show solid footwork. He places his punches whilst moving forwards and also catching you on the back foot as well. If you can get chopped by a good shot of his, he has a nice kind of timed chopping left hook which he throws from the southpaw position, and again, that's impressive as well. He has heart, I believe. We've seen that in not just the Inoue fights but the Maloney fight as well. This is not a great opponent in Maloney, but it was definitely, the hardest test he'd had prior to the Inoue fight, and he showed a lot of heart when things got tough into the later rounds of that as well. And he also, I think, keeps his shape pretty well for the most part as well. He's got that kickboxing kind of wider, stance where they're a bit lighter on their feet and they can keep their shape nicely. Negatives about him, I think he drops his hands coming in, leaving quite a few gaps when he is coming in close. He's got overconfident, moments in fights where he is just doing a bit too much and not, reacting well to punches, but, still trying to just act cocky and confident. And I think he can also allow his ego to take over at times. And I think that was happening in the Inoue fight when things weren't really going too well. It's entertaining, it's exciting, but again, it's not really what you want in the way of just a kind of clean boxing, taking minimal damage type of display. He throws from quite low a lot of the time. His head movement is good when he thinks about using it, but it's not a natural thing that I think comes to him. I think he has to manually, really think about, oh yeah, okay, time to move it here, time to move it here. It's not just a, thing where he can do and then throw at the same time, whilst Estrada has that. He can forget to take steps back. Again, when his footwork's at the best, he has energy, and again, in the early rounds, he's going to definitely try and put it on Estrada. But again, if he gets through them early rounds and hasn't caused too much damage to Estrada, Estrada might be able to build back. He doesn't work off in close all too well. He doesn't really clinch or push you off either. I think physically he can have problems because in the Inoue fight he was trying to push him back and trying to force him back again. The same in the Maloney fight as well, and he just wasn't really able to. I just don't think physically he's that strong, but he's trying to, but he just can't push you off. And he doesn't really go for clinches either when he's in close, and he's instead is just taking punches. And again, this could be an ego thing, but I also have seen his corner. I've heard his corner through the commentary kind of translating it, saying that they're telling him to do that and telling him to push opponents off, which I just don't think is necessary for him, because I think he can move and, get back to his jab and things like that. But he does do that, but he didn't do it enough, in my opinion. And he allows you to have that spacing close, again, by not clinching, by not doing that kind of thing. He just is allowing that space, and he can admire his work at times as well, again, through possible overconfidence. Estrada, as a fighter, typically when he's at his best, he's a volume puncher. We were able to see that a bit against Bam Rodriguez, but not really too much. But again, in all the Chocolatito fights and, in other ones of his top fights, the Cortez fight, we saw that well as well. And again, it's just a good volume puncher. He's got skilled footwork movements when he's at his best laterally. He can be very skilled. He can come off and step off and create new angles. He can, throw from different positions. He can then, also move, get out of a bad position, spin opponents around as well. It's all very impressive when he is using it. And, it's nice. It would be nice to see that he still can use it and still will use it in this fight. I would imagine he will still use it. He was trying to use it a bit against Rodriguez, but Rodriguez was just timing him really nicely straight to the body, and that slowed him down a bit. But I don't know if Nasukawa's power will be able to have that much of an effect on Estrada to really slow him down that much. So I would like to see, the skilled movements and the head movement and just the fluidity in which we have seen in the past from Estrada, which I think is just something which is very underrated about his game. We see the volume punching, and yes, he does get caught, but there is times where he's very fluid with his movement, and he can use his head movement. He can step off, like I say, creating new angles, creating different positions, defensively just kind of move off as well. Again, he is a very underrated, very solid fighter. He doesn't load up his punches. Again, he can throw all over with his punches in bunches. He's comfortable throwing combinations as well. He's got good punch variation. He always tries to respond if he gets caught, and again, I think he'll show that heart and desire. Hopefully, he'll still have that to give for this fight. He does carry power as well. It's not something which is crazy, but he can definitely flip momentum and disrupt rhythm, kind of punching in between hits, and that's what he was doing against Bam Rodriguez in their fight. He was trying to disrupt the rhythm, and it was working at times, and again, he was able to get a knockdown by doing that. But again, it doesn't always work. It's just, like I say, something that does work at times, and I think against Nasukawa, it might be something in which he hasn't had to deal with. Of course, Estrada has leaps of experience compared to him. He throws from different positions. He's very strong-willed as well, I believe, and I think he's still got a chin. I mean, he got beat down to the body against Bam Rodriguez, and of course, that's different to, getting knocked out or to showing a lack of a chin. I think he still does have a good, strong chin, and he defends punches in close, again, like I say, with the movement, with the jab, with parrying punches as well. He can show a bit of a cross guard at times, which is something nice, and it actually means he's catching a lot of punches. If you watch some of the Estrada fights, even that last one, they were saying it's closer, and it is, because he is still taking punches, but he's blocking a lot of them, so he's not actually getting damaged by too many of them. To speak negatively about him, he's been hurt to the body now that we have seen, and Nasukawa will step into a couple big body shots, so it'll be interesting to see how he deals with that, but I just don't, like I say, think it'll be with quite as much power as that of Bam Rodriguez, but it is in a new weight division, a heavier weight division, so it might be something in which, again, still Estrada isn't too used to or comfortable with. He wants to trade early when he doesn't really need to. He can box and move, and he can box on the move, he can box going backwards as well. He doesn't need to be just standing and trading, but he does really like it, and again, that's that kind of true inner Mexican in him. He doesn't always deal with hand speed at this point and all action fights all that well as maybe he would have used to. His strength of his guard, I think, is weakening a bit as well, and we saw that in the Rodriguez fight. I think some of the punches were getting through a little bit easier than maybe they once would. He is less compact when he's throwing than, when he was fighting Gonzalez. He was, less compact than Gonzalez when Gonzalez was throwing, in my opinion, and that led to Gonzalez being able to land punches on him. He doesn't always gain that respect to slow you down. He does have power, but he, as we've seen in fights, his opponents will keep coming forwards, and he will allow you to come in and to, get in close before, being able to land on you too, more often than not. He does duck into punches a bit at times as well, and he doesn't always know exactly when to plant his feet. I feel, there's times where he's just moving around where if he was to plant his feet and actually exchange, he could really land a power punch, but he's not always planting his feet at the right time, and that's because he can throw a move at the same time. But again, that's just not as powerful when he is throwing and moving, if that makes sense. Who do I think is going to win this fight? I think Juan Francisco Estrada is going to do it. I think old guy is going to come and do it. I say old guy, but he's only 35 still. I think he has still got a bit left to give. Obviously, we've seen him now get knocked out bad, and he is coming up into a new weight division, but I think he's going to be able to set a tempo where Nasukawa will probably land on him and catch him a little bit early at a bit of a mid-range, and we'll have moments where he's allowed to come in and maybe land one or two good body shots that might, make Estrada think a little bit. But I think Estrada will show heart, show desire, catch Nasukawa with a few good shots when Nasukawa leaves gaps when he's throwing, and stepping up from a different angle, coming in different positions, showing some good defensive head movement as well, not just staying on the ropes. That's something in which I don't want to see Estrada get into a habit of, because he was a little bit in that fight against Bam Rodriguez, but that's not really something which he normally does. If we can see this Estrada version that we saw of him before the Jesse Bam Rodriguez fight, I think he can come on, like I say, into the later parts of the fight and really have success and really start to dominate and catch Nasukawa quite a lot with punches from different angles, different positions, and just really make him work hard. And he's just not going to be able to handle that level of experience from the kickboxing background. Something in which it's been evident is the fact that he does kind of fade away in fights, Nasukawa, and it's quite a typical thing with fighters coming from different sports. They can fade away in the latter parts of fights, and we've seen it in the Maloney fight now, and we've also seen it in the Inoue fight, and I think this fight will be no different. And I think Estrada still has enough to give to be able to show them skills into the later rounds. And then if we can go on to fight, of course, like I mentioned, Inoue versus Ioka, the winner of that, he is going to be technically forced to fight. I don't know. Again, maybe he might be, but the winner of that could be a good fight. Ioka versus Estrada will be a really good fight if Ioka beats Inoue. Just two legends going at it would be a really interesting fight. Andrew Kane, could possibly happen. That'd be a big name for Kane to fight. And he's in a good ranked position, so possibly. Or we could just see the Chocolatito fight again. They fought 3 times now, and the last one was just as competitive as the first one, really. And so why not run it back for a 4th time? Chocolatito is still fighting and still going out there to give his all in his fights, and he's still in the super flyweight division, but I'm sure he probably would be comfortable moving up into the bantamweight division to face Estrada again. And again, I would be here to see it for a 4th time. We could probably put them guys against each other 10 times, and I'm sure they would all be really exciting matchups. And so yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.